What is going on, Whisper Nation? Listen, maybe you're tired of losing your fantasy football draft. You're tired of getting laughed at by your league mates. Maybe you've already won and you want to continue to set the edge. You want to continue to raise the bar on how you want to dominate fantasy football. Maybe you're new to the game this year. You just want to get an inside track on what you're supposed to be doing. Who are these players? I have no idea who Olamide Zacchaeus is. Who is this guy? Well, we've got you covered. The Fantasy Whispers are ready to help you win your fantasy football draft. We're going to tell you how, because we've got the ultimate playbook, the Bible of fantasy football. We've got the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay, the Omega Code. We've cracked it for you, Whisper Nation. So please, please stay tuned, because we're going to tell you how you win your draft in fantasy football in 2021 right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
That's right, Johnny. We're here, man. We're doing it. We're doing the dang thing. Kevin Bacon says he loves the beard. I love you, Kevin Bacon. If you're seeing that beard, if you're hearing my beautiful voice, please consider sharing this on whatever platform you are on. We're going live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. So give us a share, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you're new to the Fantasy Whispers, consider following us on all those platforms, but also following us on YouTube and hitting us with a subscribe, because that helps us grow the channel and continue to do what we love to do, which is bring you fantasy football content. And Johnny, the biggest thing we're going to bring you right now is the draft kit. We have been working so hard. My man over there, Johnny, has been hashtag team no sleep in getting this thing done. He pulled me on board with the hashtag team no sleep, and we've been doing it. You can find that on the fantasywhispers.com, as well as all of our other content. Johnny, it's time to kind of preview this thing and show Whisper Nation what this draft kit is all about. And I failed to mention the biggest allure here. It's only $15, Johnny. Like, that is, you look at some of these draft kits being sold for $50. This is such a steal of a deal, and it's got 176 pages of just pure bliss.
Not only that, Travis, this is just a preview right here. We'll just sample this stuff up here and just say we'll dive into some of these pieces. But like you said, 176 pages of fantasy gold. Lots of information in here, as well as we're going to keep adding to it. It's not like we just release this and we're like, all right, that's it. Our job is done here. No, we're going to update it. We've already updated some stuff this morning and uploaded. We're going to be sending out a part 2 version, an updated version, in a couple of days. So this thing is going to continue to get updated. We'll add more information on there as we get more ideas or get some feedback on some things or people like. We'll be updating it to the draft kit. But I'm telling you, we are so incredibly proud of this thing, and we guarantee that you will be too if you look into it, and you will learn a lot about fantasy football. You'll see a lot of information that is just wild, like all the misinformation that's out there right now. It's like fake news, dude. Like, you're looking at some of these stats, like I'm doing, and I'm like, wait a second. Why is there a big misconception on this player in the league? Or why is there so much hype around this player when in reality he's not consistent? So all of that stuff in this draft kit, I can't wait to reveal it. I can't wait to talk to you about it, Travis.
Yeah, I wish you'd shut up a little. I'm trying to get in here and talk. You just can't stop going. No, but I get it. And then, Johnny, I get exactly why you're doing it, because this thing is jam-packed, and we'll just kind of go over a little summary here of what's in it, right, Johnny? We've got the draft day cheat sheet. This is your ultimate one-page cheat sheet comprised of just about everything you'll need for the best day of the year, that draft day, right? So this is just like, hey, if you cram it all into one thing, cram it in your cram hole, LaFleur. That's what we get to do here. We've got Johnny's top 200 tiered rankings right on the flip side of that draft sheet. Okay. Then we've got the risk assessor, man. This thing, John Credit puts this together for us. You might recognize John Credit. He does our rankings. He also did some of the writing for the matchup profiles last year, or the matchup pieces last year. So he's got a great fantasy mind. And what he did is he took multiple industry data points, like our consensus projections, rankings, and consistency, and we assign a risk rating with all of those combined. He plugs it into the algorithm. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And he spits out 100 players, the top 100 players, and gives them their risk rating. We love that. We've also got the consistency sheets, Johnny. And not only are these consistency sheets great because you get to see 2019, 2020's data here. You get the year long, but then you've also got the weekly data. And so that gives you a kind of barometer on how to, really go after these players and based on what they actually do week to week. And like just a sneak preview, we'll talk about a guy like Tyler Lockett, who end of year is this great wide receiver, but if you drill down and look at the weekly stuff, not so consistent, not really what you want in fantasy football. Obviously, you want the points, but you don't want them all in one area. This is a weekly game. We're trying to stack wins. So we've got that. And then we've got the premium player projections. And Johnny, we did something really special this year. We gave you the projections like we do every year, but we wanted you to see it in a team level view. And so I'm really excited to show Whisper Nation a little bit of that. We get the team level view rocking and rolling there, and then also the projections that follow that. And then we've got our PPR and standard differentiators in there for the premium player projections. But then my pride and joy of the draft kit is our individual player profiles. So we go through and we give you a fantasy take on every single player that we think is going to be draftable, that we think is going to be worthy of you taking this year or not taking based on ADP. And we'll let you know why they are worth taking and why they are not worth taking in that. And I'm excited to get Whisper Nation privy to that information as well.
And that's honestly the and here I'll flash up here just what those player profiles kind of look like here. But Travis, you're talking about these players that not all of them are draftable. And so do we tell you which players to draft and not to draft? Of course we do. But we give you a full breakdown of what their picture, paint their picture for their offense. We'll tell you whether or not you should allow other players to let them draft and wait till after to go and strike to get those players, off the waiver or whatnot. It's
basically, me and Johnny have been crunching these numbers now for, really going on 10 over a decade, but really fine tuning our skill over the last 5 years. And what we did is we took these profiles, we took these players and we said, how would I approach every single player? And that's our take here. And we're going to give you our take, and we're going to give you a reason that, look, fantasy football is about there's only X amount of players. We know that. And we know that we could draft him or we could not draft him. We get to a position where maybe we have to draft him. He's the last guy available at that position. Maybe you got to take it. We give you that kind of insight as to what our mind would be thinking in those situations, because we're here to help you dominate your draft. And that's what we do it for. Do It 420 says, hi guys, how's it going, man? Appreciate you being in here. Look, as the banner below says, this is an industry low, only $15. But you can go to fantasywhispers.com or click that link in the description and grab it today. And we're going to start going through some of these things. So, Johnny, I want to start with that cheat sheet. If we can flash it up quickly here, this will be updated as well. So make sure you're sticking with us. And if you buy it, you get every single update. We'll probably be updating this thing weekly. But the cheat sheet shows we've got our take on whispers and wannabes. This is like a breakouts and busts kind of thing. We've got do not draft players. We've got tier jumpers. We've got our draft day steals at every single round. So we each provided one guy there at every single round that we think is a steal at current ADP. That will obviously be updated as ADP changes. We've got the strength of schedule for each position. We've got offensive line rankings, Johnny. All these things that are here are just great tools to use on your draft day. What kind of revealed itself to you as we were building out this cheat sheet? What was something that really stuck with you? I remember talking to you about Mike Gesicki a little bit because we knew we were high on him last year. But you think with Tua coming in this year, Mike Gesicki is a guy who you have labeled as a tier jumper here, I believe, right? A potential a whisper?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that
one of your whispers, breakout potential here.
And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't until I kind of dove into the weekly consistency charts where I kind of noticed that actually Gesicki was a little bit better than what we had thought he was last year. And so I tend to think that, hey, maybe he could actually be a little bit of a post-hype sleeper. And the thing that I keep kind of as I'm going, tight end is one of my favorite positions to target, right? Like just evaluating that, because there is such a difference maker when you can get a guy and you don't have to pay up, right? Like you can get a guy that gives you the production of a top 5 tight end, but you're getting them in the later rounds. I love trying to find that guy each and every single year. And I have a few of them that are in mind, and I'm still doing the full process to kind of eliminate that down to one guy. I try to do that, But Gesicki is a guy that I did want to make aware of for people because his numbers actually down the stretch were a lot better than what they actually presented, as well as when you look at what this offense will now do, he won't have to play on the outside as much and be like their number one option as far as pass catching. He can move back inside closer to the line. He'll get a lot more mismatches now because he'll be in linebackers and not guys who can keep up with his speed and things like that. And so I do think that if you decide to hold out on a guy a little later, then I would definitely go that direction.
I want to just point out one of my tier jumpers, one of my guys that I think could end up being your league winner this year, Johnny. People need to start peeking a little bit more attention to Trey Lance. Okay, Trey Lance is a guy that could end up winning you your league, and I say that because a lot of people say, "Well, he's so raw, but the offense that he ran in college was a pro-ready offense. He was doing checks at the line of scrimmage. Okay, he ran this offense so well that he was, I believe, undefeated, 17-0 as a starter. He also threw 30 touchdowns to 1 interception. Now it's a small school, we get that. But this is a guy that ran a pro-ready offense in that small school and was doing big things for that small school. You don't trade the kind of capital that San Francisco traded to not put him in this year. He will definitely probably start this year, I believe. It's a matter of when, not if, that happens. And then his ability in this offense. I mean, we've seen when this offense gets going. We've seen guys like Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard, produce numbers in this offense. Get this offense fully healthy. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, the running backs going. Obviously, George Kittle. And I think Trey Lance could win you a league. I'm not saying he's Pat Mahomes, but think about the value you got Pat Mahomes in that first year as a starter. You got him off waivers. You got him at the end of drafts. If you end up, last pick in the draft, you take a Trey Lance, you stash him a little bit. He gets the start after week 3, week 4. And then you're riding that mobility and that just raw talent to a championship, Johnny.
I'm not as big of a fan of Trey Lance as you are, so I'll let you say your piece on it. But I'm more of a believer in Fields over Lance this year. I think Fields will be the better quarterback.
Take them both, man. Take them both. I think I agree that he is just as easily an upside play as Trey Lance as well. And I don't have any qualms if you rank him over him. I just think they're both guys you should be looking at. When you're in late rounds and you're trying to stab for a guy that can win you at all, swing for the fences. You miss out on a Jalen Hurts, let's say earlier on. So you get yourself a Kirk Cousins and then one of these guys, so you kind of hedge your bet there. And I think it's a fine strategy to try and win your league.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some upside in those rookie quarterbacks. We tend to see at least one of them kind of become like that mainstream guy as far as a quarterback streamer that you pick up and, could potentially end up leading you to starting a couple weeks or definitely probably. We definitely
probably maybe, I don't know, kind of could be the situation here.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about your tiered rankings. It's just on the back of the sheet there. We have those broken down. Just real quickly, anything you want to say about those tiered rankings? What tiers do for you in a fantasy football draft, and how they can help you in your draft? Sorry.
Why I like tiered breakdowns for revealing information as well. These are guys that are put in. So if you're looking at our rankings, for example, you might go to our ranking sheet, which we have, the PPR rankings and standard rankings. We'll be adding half PPR rankings in there as well, and an update. So when you look at those rankings, you will see certain players projected to score a certain amount of points and finish, running back 27, let's say, right? But when you look at, their points in general, you would say, okay, let's say running back 27 is going to score, 150 fantasy points. Then what you could do is you can say, okay, well, if my guy comes off the board, I'm really a big fan of this guy, and they're saying that he's going to be projected to be 150 fantasy points. Then we want Whisper Nation to be able to look in this tier and say, let's say whatever running back that was, we'll just pick a guy here. Let's say it was, I don't know, this isn't actually Zach Moss. We'll just say Zach Moss. Okay. So let's say you want to take Zach Moss. Zach Moss comes off the board. You're really upset because you're like, oh, Zach Moss was the guy that I thought was going to, have a tremendous upside, blah, blah, blah. then you can go to this and say, okay, well, Zach Moss is in the same tier as a guy like Trey Sermon or James Conner or Javante Hawkins, even though they might not go. If you go to the rankings, the actual projections, it might show that, Zach Moss is going to score 20 more fantasy points over the year than a guy like Javian Hawkins. Then you can kind of get a sense of, okay, well, these guys are more so in the same tier because, yes, once again, they are projections. Are we confident in our projections? We take a lot of time doing those. Yes, but they are just that. They are perfection, or they are not a perfect science. And so this gives you
I think projections are obviously, and by nature, should be something that is conservative, that we say this is what is probably most likely within their range of outcomes, right? But what tiers end up doing is showing you like, oh, this guy is, yes, ranked below Zach Moss, so to speak, or above Zach Moss by however many points. But they have very similar range of outcomes as far as ceiling to floor and floor to ceiling. Mm-hmm. And so that's a situation where you're like, well, if I'm going to swing for Zach Moss and I didn't get him, here's a guy that I think could give you just the same amount of pop should things break his way. And it's a way of like pivoting when you need that position within your draft. So I really love that there. You guys are going to enjoy that. If you grab the draft kit by clicking the link in the description, it's an industry low $15. Just smash it right there. Go grab it right now. And like we said, we update it all year long. It's interesting to get it now too and see how we update it and see what kind of changes in ADP, because let's say you're playing in 2-3 leagues, you're going to have different draft dates. Things are going to change. Information's going to come out. Injuries are going to happen. So you're going to want to be equipped all summer long. You get it now when you have a little bit of downtime before your draft. You study it up. You're more prepared for your draft. All right, Johnny, one of the best tools we have in this thing is the risk assessor. And John Credit kind of put this thing together a couple years ago, and he has perfected this thing over the last 3 years. And now we've got something in here that is just a beauty to take a look. Johnny, let's take a look at this risk assessor here. I just want to show that front page here.
Yeah.
First of all, our boy Antonio Gibson. Everybody loves Antonio Gibson. So we've got upside opportunity, we've got downside risk, and total risk. You look at the player risk that's also here. All these different tools and ways to kind of adjust what your perception of a guy should be based on risk that's in there. Any particular player kind of flash to you as not as risky as we may have thought, or riskier than we thought based on looking at some of the assessor numbers here?
So I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like, as far as the projections and stuff go, like I'm pretty confident in that stuff. Like, cause that's what we do. Right.
Yeah.
I will be completely honest with Whisper Nation. I have no idea how Credit puts this together and what he does, but I will tell you, it is extremely accurate. Like, I don't know how he does it or like what numbers he pulls from, or maybe he could just tell the future. Maybe that's just it. But I'm telling you, because the last 2 years we've had this in our draft kit, and I'm like looking back, I go, like, of course I'll use it in my in the draft. I kind of look, I'll get a feel. Okay, is this, if I'm bouncing between guys, I'll take a look at, what's the difference or whatever. But at the end of the year, it's always fun to go back and look at this and really say, okay, is this system really working? Do we need to make tweaks? And Travis, I'm not going to lie to you. Last year, dude, we had Saquon and CMC were at the top of that list, and they both end up getting injured. Now, I'm not saying like, is this going to be 100% every time?
No, I'm not. Yeah,
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it is a very good tool and a very good weapon. And the one that I really want to bring up here that I want to talk about specifically, Travis, because it's wild to me. Ezekiel Elliott, we have ranked at only 24% risk, which is actually the second lowest, along with Derrick Henry. Two running backs who are on, the upper ends of their careers that a lot of people are saying, hey, I don't know if, he's going to make it through this year because there's a lot of workload on those legs. There's a lot of question marks. They got some other things going on. And so you're starting to see some guys fall. And a guy that I wanted to bring up was a guy like Ezekiel, because we have him on the consistency chart on the very front cover, Travis, because he is actually one of the most consistent running backs we have, not only from a year-to-year basis, from a weekly basis over the last few years. And so you pair that with the fact that like now he's coming in as and I didn't know this until we put this together, but the total risk for Ezekiel Elliott ends up being one of the lowest of all running backs. And so for me, that even put him up even higher in my rankings, or at least my tiered rankings, I should say, because talking about like tiered rankings versus actual rankings, my actual rankings say that Ezekiel Elliott's going to finish, like 5th or 6th, I think. But my tiered rankings, I have Ezekiel Elliott in that second tier, right behind, the Dalvin Cook, CMC, and Alvin Kamara. I have Zeke right in that second tier with Nick Chubb. So I wanted to point that out. I thought it was a very interesting thing as far as the risk assessor goes.
Yeah, I want to talk about a couple of guys on that risk assessor. Mike Davis. So that one's kind of getting me here. Total risk 59%. And the reason I think this is showing up, and I just love that this is banging home here, Mike Davis is going squarely in the RB dead zone. And we've talked about Mike Davis being a great, zero RB strategist, maybe. Like you do something like that, you go and you scoop him up. He should get all the volume. Johnny, I'm kind of getting scared a little bit off Mike Davis because he's going right in those rounds where guys bust all the time. And we're going to say that a journeyman who's never been, handled a full workload is now all of a sudden going to handle that full workload. Risk assessors telling us, hey, slow down a little bit here. Another guy that's in there, I've talked about being a league winner, but now his ADP is rising. Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon sitting there right there with a similar risk set. And that's just the violence of the offense, the fact that it's a committee a lot of times, as Johnny's pointed out, all these different ways to look at guys. So if you're looking for that tiebreaker in between this player and that player, maybe you flash the risk assessor up and you take a look and you say, okay, I'm going with this guy instead. Or I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and grab another guy who's similar risk, but later on, and he's in a different tier that you could check on the cheat sheet. So make sure you're checking that out. Man, I'm excited. I could talk about this risk assessor the whole show.
I know. The risk assessor is
that might be the tool. That might be the secret code, but get that off the screen.
Yeah.
If they want it, hey, if they want it, they got to go over to thefantasywhispers.com and help us continue to bring content to you like this by getting the draft kit. Only $15. You can also click the link in the description below if you're on YouTube. On Facebook, I put it in the comments there. And if you're listening at home, head to thefantasywhispers.com. So, Johnny, moving on, we've got to talk about the next thing on the agenda, which, of course, is the the consistency sheets. You alluded to that as well. You talked about Zeke being on the cover of these consistency sheets. Look, we've got now 2019, 2020 data, correct? And we're going to have 2018 in the first update that pushes through on this. Yeah. So that's 3 years worth of the weekly data. We've got 3 years worth of the yearly data. And that's how this is kind of broken down, right, Johnny? You have your yearly and then your weekly ways of seeing where they finished in fantasy. And so you could see bust rate, where they were as far as a top 12 RB, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, or, on down the line, if they were wide receiver 2s, if they were wide receiver 3s, etc. And so, look, we know this. Like a lot of Sleeper, ESPN, they're going to show you, kind of years back data. But what we love about this is we're trying to build on this and show you where they're going to fit or where they have finished, and how you can kind of once again look at. When I think of consistency, there's been nobody better a poster child than like a guy like Tyler Lockett, who finishes the year as a top 15 wide receiver, but 30% of his scoring week to week is the only top 15. 70% of the time, he's outside of the top 15. So you're looking at things like that that you like. Johnny, what's a player or somebody that kind of popped out to you as over consistent or under consistent based on your perception?
I just wanted to show you, you asked about Tyler Lockett here. You could see, he's got, of course, you get the week 3, 5 finish, week 9, he had the number 1 overall finish. And then in week 15 had another 6, but you're looking at all these ones, wide receiver 41, wide receiver 28, wide receiver 40, wide receiver, it's like wide receiver 52, that was the problem with Tyler Lockett is like you don't want to play him. That's so inconsistent. And like that's
11 games I just counted, Johnny, outside the top 20 at the position.
Yeah.
And you're having to draft him, around there sometimes or even ahead. And he finished as a wide receiver 15 because of those 3 spiked weeks.
And that's
And
something that you have to look forward to. And like that's one of the biggest pieces as far as these consistency charts. And when you're looking at them, and what it reveals and tells you is just how overblown some of these players are going because of their year-end finishes, because they had some really good games. And the major ones, Travis, I just really want to. This was my favorite, like my biggest one. Like seriously,
spit it out, dude. Tell us. Give us
like
the secret.
So when I did the consistency charts, the number one player out of all players, this is going to be wild. The number one player out of all players that shocked me the most, you won't believe this when I tell you, but it was Patrick Mahomes. And why I tell you that is Patrick Mahomes has been coming off the board as the number one overall quarterback. And we've been arguing for a long time, hey, that's fine. Like, he's a really good quarterback and he's going to be top three there. You know, in most cases, unless he gets a really bad injury, he's going to be a top three quarterback at the end of the year. He's just that good. But look at this, Travis. You break down the weekly starts of a guy like Pat Mahomes. Now, let's remind ourselves, like when we draft him number one, we are drafting him because we're like, oh, he's going to be top three at the position. That's why I'm drafting him. But then you look at the weeklies, Travis, of Patrick Mahomes. Look how many times he finished outside of the top 12 at the position. Week 1, week 4, week 7, week 12, and week 16. Outside of the top 12.
5 times. That's not great for a guy you're trying to sacrifice so much draft capital for.
Exactly. And then you're saying, okay, well, maybe Johnny, that was just the 2020 season. Even go back to the year before. Pat Mahomes right here. Look how many times you got quarterback 11, quarterback 13, quarterback 24, quarterback 15, quarterback
6 times.
So,
6 times there last year, or 5 times last year, 6 times the year before. Just has not been the model of top 5 consistency, and really even top 12 consistency that you would think when you're trying to lock it in and pick that guy. It's just another way to remind people, hey, you could draft him there. We get it. We get the upside. We get that you want to take him there. But if you don't and you draft another guy who's more consistent at a different position, the opportunity cost that you're gaining is so much greater, because now you can go and shoot for a guy that is going to have a big year. Maybe he does it via on the ground. And that's the upside late QB play you're taking there. I love that breakdown. But once again, we could continue to talk about consistency charts, but then we give away the entire draft kit to Whisper Nation. Look, we want you guys to have this information. We do. That's why we spent our blood, sweat, and tears compiling this information for you, because Whisper Nation, it's our gift to you guys for an industry low of only $15. Like a lot of other people do this. We get that, but they do it at a much higher price, and they're giving you, I don't want to talk crap on anybody, but we just have done a lot of work to get this thing up, and we're doing it for such a low price for you, Whisper Nation, because we know you're out there grinding and trying to get this done. So if you're listening at home, thefantasywhispers.com to get that draft kit. If you're watching on any of the streams right now, you can look in the description below and grab the draft kit by clicking that link. Only $15. Get it today. Got to get it today.
I do want to just flat. I mean, we do have. I didn't get a chance to ever flat. We do have the yearly as well. Yeah. So on all these players, so you really see here. So look, and just bring up Pat Mahomes again. QB 6, 7, and 1. Travis. So not a good trend to see there, but you see these things like this in the draft kit. So
yeah, man, I was just trying to stare at that right now. You just took it right off the screen.
I know, dude. I had to pull it down. I had to pull it down.
All right. So the next thing on here is the premium player projections. Johnny, what I loved about this year is you kind of pulled an audible on me last minute. You said, no, we're going to go team level with them too, which we always do. We always have team level, but you typically this is what's different this year. Typically in the draft kits in the past, we've given you just the single player projections by position. Mm-hmm. We wanted to take a look and show you, look, and you know what I think this is great for, and we'll get into it. Flash one of these up here for me, John.
Give me a team. Whatever team you want. Give me a team.
Give me the Cincinnati Bengals.
The reason
I want to bring the Cincinnati Bengals in is because, Johnny, we've talked that how we think that within their range of outcomes is kind of the Dallas Cowboys of the North, the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC, as in a team that's going to throw a ton with a lot of weapons. And therefore, we kind of like their projection. What I love about this, Johnny, is you'll show here at the team level. So we've got Joe Burrow, obviously. We've got Joe Mixon. But really for the pass catchers and for the running backs, this is going to show you not only what that player is going to, have points per game. It's going to show you in comparison to his teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you maybe are sacrificing by taking him a little bit higher than his teammate. And so I want to show here. So we've got Jamar Chase at 12.3. We've got T. Higgins at 11 points. 1 point off a game, 1.3 points off a game. And my point over the last couple of weeks I've been trying to hammer home with T. Higgins is I think T. Higgins is the wide receiver you want to target in this wide receiving core. And that is because T. Higgins is going at a much lower cost than his teammate Jamar Chase. Look, I get the whole hype. Jamar Chase is a prolific talent, generational, as everybody likes to say. He is going to play with a generational talent at quarterback who he also played with in college. He was taken within the top 5. He's a great prospect, but he is going higher than pretty much any rookie wide receiver's gone. I was looking at some of this ADP data, and he's going really high, even higher than Justin Jefferson last year. A lot of these situations.
CeeDee Lamb last year.
Lamb, exactly. So I think the price is a little too high for a guy that is projected, even if he hits his ceiling, his conservative ceiling, to only score 1 more point per game than a T. Higgins. So snag T. Higgins and get yourself a running back where you're taking Jamar Chase or another established wide receiver who we know is going to get that point share, that target share. We know for a fact if he stays healthy for 16 games is going to get that target share. And that's where I'm at with Jamar Chase. And I'm glad you brought up the Bengals here. And then that's just what you see at the team level, right? When you're able to break it down and look at it, when you're comparing wide receivers against each other. And this isn't a slight. Now, I wrote about it in the profiles. And it's like, just because we think one guy is good on his team doesn't mean we're down on the other guy. I'm not down on Jamar Chase. I'm just talking about opportunity cost here. So get them both if you want, because they can both be profitable. We get that. Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to play for Chase's upside. This is just a perspective when we show you at the team level what you can expect out of each guy, and then compared to his counterpart. And maybe you're like, okay, I want to invest. I want to diversify my bonds. I'm not going to take both Bengals. I'm going to save on Chase, take another alpha on another team, and then get T. Higgins later. I think that's a winning strategy as well. Johnny, anything else that jumped out at the team level projections for you?
No, I wanted to, second your thought on saying that it's a really good snapshot of seeing, if you're a big fan of a certain player, and then seeing, hey, maybe this guy is not, he's much cheaper. And like you said, he's only getting, on average 1 point fewer per game. Then you can really see some nice values like that, like you said. And then it can really open up your strategy when you're drafting, because you'll have that in the back of your mind. Or at least you can quickly go and look it up if you're about to, you're on the clock and you're like, oh, I was looking at, Jamar Chase. Let me see, or maybe it's not Jamar Chase. Maybe, Odell is on the Browns here as the next one, right? You could be like, okay, well, what's the next person I have behind? Oh, Jarvis Landry, who's supposed to get, 30 points fewer. And you're like, oh, that's a huge gap. Okay, I'll pay up for OBJ, because like that, it doesn't make sense to go down whereas like the T. Higgins is a perfect example where it's like, oh, it does make sense to just go down and go to the second wide receiver, because there's very little difference to me.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on the audio version, make sure you guys get a chance to look at YouTube. You can kind of see the beauty of these team level projections and why they're so important. And I think that these team level projections may be the biggest piece of information. The risk assessor is great. I love all these other pieces in here. This one is the actual metrics and the bread and butter, or as he says in Nacho Libre, the nitty gritty. This is where you really make your money here, because you're sitting here and you're at your draft and you're going, I need a snapshot. I haven't been able to be like Johnny and Travis and be just completely saturated in all the beat writer reports and all the, coaching changes and all the ways the teams change over the offseason. When we were building these out, buddy, I had my roommates and friends of mine being like, oh, Emmanuel Sanders is on the Bills now. Yeah. Like all these different like questions. And I'm like, yeah, man, like, where have you been? And it's no offense to them. I get it, man. There's a lot going on. You got to live your life. We have not been living our life. Okay. We have just been going after it in this draft kit and trying to get you team level projections that do it. And of course, like every year before, we go on from the team level projections to give you our basically rankings and PPR projections based on rankings at each individual position, right, Johnny?
Yeah. Sorry, I know that I just thought of a really important thing that I just want to mention before we move on, Travis. The other really nice thing about those team projections, right? Of course, we're going to update those. Like those will too also be updated if anything happens, right, to a player who gets injured. We'll update those to reflect that and then update in the draft kit. But it's also an opportunity to say, right, for Whisper Nation, if you have this and a player goes down, you can immediately go to that kit and you could say, you could look up that team and you say, okay, who's the next wide receiver on this chart, or who should fill in that player? And you can kind of see where that player is right now ranked. And you can also see where the player that they are going to take over for. And you can say, okay, well, there's like a huge gap here. Maybe I'll go after this player. It could give you a head start on that. And I think that that's why it's so useful as well. So, yeah, now we could get into the projections. I just thought that
for sure
came to me and I got excited.
That's great. And once again, it's a snapshot at being familiar with each team and knowing who your handcuffs are, as Johnny said, and who your backups are. And that's great in itself as well. So at the individual level, we got quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight end. We're going to give you, those PPR and standard looks at those guys. Not much to really talk about here. It's just the individual level of what we do at the team level. And so you can see it, Davante Adams is our number 1 ranked wide receiver. Here's his fantasy points per game. Here's our projected targets, receptions, yards, all those things. What's great about this, man, you got Davante Adams. This is a point I wanted to hammer home because Ian Hartitz did a good job on his podcast a couple weeks ago, talking about Davante Adams. Even if Aaron Rodgers were to leave, Davante Adams is relatively probably one of the safest guys that you've got, even if he leaves, because we've seen this before where Brett Hundley took over and Davante Adams still finished points per game wise one of the better wide receivers that, as a wide receiver 1. And so I think he's very safe even if Rodgers leaves. Now, you probably don't want to take him in the first round if Rodgers is not there. But he's still a guy that's not, his tier's not going to fall as hard as, say, like an Aaron Jones if Aaron Rodgers were to leave. And I think that's important to talk about here. But either way, we still got him projected, which shows you, because we have, Aaron Rodgers a little bit down because we're just not sure yet. That will obviously be updated if we get word that he is going to be.
I thank you for bringing that up because I actually did want to talk about that real quick. And I could just explain it here. So right now, as you look, you will see Aaron Rodgers, QB 21. I know people are going to be like, what? Why do you have QB 21? And
I looked at it and I almost fired Johnny on the spot.
Here's the thing. When we do our projections, there are certain players that, we project a different amount of games for. The latest beat reporters or what they're saying now is that they're expecting Aaron Rodgers to at least miss the first 4 weeks. And so that's what I built that projection on, was Rodgers missing 4 weeks, so he's not going to get 100% snap count, and that's why his points are so low as far as total overall. But then, obviously, if he's playing, his weeklies are going to go up, to counterbalance that. So it all just depends on certain guys' snap count, and that's why their total overall projection might be a little bit lower. And like that would be why for like some of these rookie quarterbacks who we do project and think will end up being the starter, their fantasy points are just a little bit more uneven right now because we don't necessarily know the amount of games they're going to play, so we don't know the points per game basis.
All of you that are watching right now, please help us and get those likes up and help us, get this out there to more eyeballs so they can see it and kind of see how we're going to help you guys win your leagues in 2021. We've already been doing this a few years. We've got it fine-tuned now. We love what we're doing here, but we need your help. We need you to go get that thing at an industry low $15, which of course you can do at thefantasywhispers.com. But if you are watching on the streams, you can hit that link in the description below, so make sure you do that. The last part, and the best for last maybe, you have here is the player profiles, and this is the meatiest thing in our draft kit because, Johnny, we go through every single fantasy relevant player in our mind, in our opinion, and get you a take basically on that guy, and a fantasy football take, our outlook for them for the year. So as you see here, we've got quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends that fill this sheet or these profiles out, and we go through each one. So, Johnny, if you scroll down a little bit, we'll just show them the QBs really quick.
Okay.
Matt Ryan, Lamar Jackson. So obviously you see we go alphabetical here. Sorry, I almost fell asleep there. No, lack of sleep putting this kit together. Narcolepsy kicking in here. Josh Allen, obviously. And just what it is here is we're going to talk to you about them. We're going to tell you what we think these guys are capable of based on the situation. So we take things like the risk assessor, which we've gotten all the information from, the cheat sheet, which we kind of got the tier rankings, we get the information from, those consistency charts, right? The team level projections. We put all of that in a paragraph for you and say, look, here's what Dak Prescott looks like. We were robbed of that magical season last year. Here's what we think is possible this year. And what we think is going to happen with all those weapons for Dak Prescott, where you can consider taking him, and the value you're getting him out with that injury risk this year. We talk about that within the profiles. So, Johnny, when we built out these profiles, did anybody cross your mind as somebody that you wanted to say was the signature profile that you really loved, wanted to talk about?
I just enjoy them as a whole, Travis, to be honest with you. Like, there isn't one specific, like I wouldn't say, oh, this one's like beautifully written. I mean, they're all really well written. We put a lot of time into those. We, like we said, we basically end up, we always try to go into it and be like, okay, we're going to limit ourselves and like the stuff we're going to end up like saying about the player, like let's try to limit. And we end up, some of these guys really have some in-depth detailed write-ups. So it's just really nice because at any point you can go in your draft and you can quickly look up a player. Like you said, they're in alphabetical order. So you quickly go to that player. If you're wondering, hey, what's the opinion of the Fantasy Whisperers on this player? I haven't heard them talk about this player. Well, you can quickly go look that player up and then you'll get a quick snapshot of what we think. And you can base your draft off of that. Or if you just want to read through all of them, because some of them are really funny. Some of them, like, we bring humor into it as well. So those are really, really fun. And, it goes back to those magazine days, like the fantasy football magazines.
Yeah. I love it. And similar to that, it's similar to the team level projections. They're all grouped by team, right? So you can sit there and look at the wide receiving core for the Falcons now that Julio's gone, and you have Calvin Ridley, OZ, and you've got Russell Gage, and I've got, we've got profiles that we wrote for all of them, right there. And I'm sitting here as the consumer, and I've got it up, and I say, look, what do I think of these guys? Well, you're going to read them all right there, and then you know how to attack that wide receiving core in your draft. And so I think that's very special. It's very useful. And as Johnny said, we put a lot of work and effort into getting you a take on every single player that, it's all condensed into one area. And you're like, man, there's a lot of pages here. Control F that bad boy. You got it as a PDF, figure it out, look that up and find the player you're looking for. We understand. You're in Dynasty. You only want to listen to the guy. You only want to read about the guys that are on your team. We get that. We do it all the time. So go and Control F them, search them, find them. They're all in there. We've got them all piled in there for you. And any kind of take you think, you'd want, and we'll be updating this. Our outlooks change with new information. Somebody gets hired or fired or hurt. We go in there and we update those profiles as well.
I found one that I actually did want to bring up, Travis. That is that you're talking about one that was kind of shocking, right? So we put these players, like Travis said, we put them in order, with their team. So we've got all of the Houston running backs here. But one I do want to note is David Johnson. So you look at David Johnson here, and it's kind of funny because Travis wrote up David Johnson, and I was already through the other, research areas, was already looking at David Johnson through the consistency charts and the rankings and some things like that, the risk assessor. And I'm like, wait a second. David Johnson is a tremendous value now.
Yep.
And I won't lie. I almost wanted to keep him on my little short list of guys that, and then I read Travis's little script here, and I'm like, okay, Travis is picking up the same things that I'm laying down as well, or that I'm picking up. So it just confirmed that information. So I got that confirmation bias. But David Johnson is actually a guy that I do kind of want to talk about a little bit, because is he fun? Is he splashy? No, he's rather boring nowadays. Like, he used to be really fun to watch when he was a little bit younger. But the fact that David Johnson is going so late in drafts, Travis, and this guy has been a top 20 running back Oh, I would have to pull up the consistency charts to get this exact data, but it's traumatic. It's like 70% of the time he's a top 20 running back in the last like 5 or 6 years. It's pretty insane. And he's going way late in the 10th round. You know, he's going to get like 45% at least rushing share in this offense. So it's all stacking up to like, if you go running back, upside down is like we like to say it, or, like a running back anchor, and then you want to fill out your other positions and you need a couple of dart throws later on at the running back position. David Johnson is one of those guys that you should definitely target, and you find that stuff out by looking at all of it in the draft kit. Like, this stuff all leads to, it's like the yellow brick road, dude. It leads to the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it's like, maybe you're a person that likes numbers. Okay, well, the risk assessor and the projections are going to be for you. Maybe you're a person that likes stories and narratives. Okay, well, the profiles are going to be for you. Maybe you're a procrastinator and you don't do any of those things and you need something quick at the end of the day. The cheat sheet is for you. Yeah. Okay, but we've got something for every single type of fantasy football player in here. And maybe you like being able to be all those things. Maybe you got multiple drafts and you've got a home draft that you really need to be prepared for. This kit is for you. You can go through and get all the details that you need. But you've got that work league that you need something really quick. That cheat sheet's for you. The projections are for you because you can skim over those and see who you want. The tiered rankings are especially for you because you can just pluck guys right out of there. I think that everything you need is in this draft kit to win in fantasy football in 2021. And me and Johnny could not be prouder of the product we put out for you. And we could not be more stoked for getting it to you for only $15. So if you're listening to the audio, go to thefantasywhispers.com, get that draft kit today. If you're watching this video, first hit us with a like. Second, hit us with a comment on what you think about the draft kit or some of your draft day steals. And third, hit the link in the description below and get that draft kit today. Johnny, any last words on this draft kit?
Go out and get it. We would greatly appreciate it. We'd really appreciate it. Worked really hard for you, Whisper Nation.
For Johnny Game Time Hicks, I'm Big Travie. We are the Fantasy Whispers. You know the deal. We're out. Peace.
Peace. Have a good 4th of July, Whisper Nation. We'll catch you on Monday for Mock Draft Marathon.
Big Sam, that's a steal. Go get it. Click that link, Big Sam. Do it.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw and you want to learn how to dominate your own draft and win your own league, head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and grab your copy of the Fantasy Whispers Draft Kit today. Or click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.